Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers. I thought I'd stop in for a few minutes to share with you some of my thoughts since I've been getting a lot of emails and questions about the catastrophe in Afghanistan. All day I've been on the air of both national and international TV and radio programs, getting asked a lot of questions as to exactly where we are and where we're headed as a country, and where Afghanistan is and where they're headed as a country. So I'm just going to, in a few short minutes, encapsulate with you what's going on, and hopefully Wednesday night we'll be able to break this all down during our regular broadcast. To begin with, what I'm sharing with you now, I've shared with every news media outlet across the country, perhaps around the world. What we're seeing take place today is an absolute catastrophe, a catastrophe of proportions equal to the catastrophe that I witnessed during the Vietnam War, folks. I'm sure many of you have seen the videos of helicopters landing on the U.S. Embassy in Saigon in 1973 with refugees, Vietnamese, South Vietnamese civilians holding on to the skids of those choppers, falling off and dying, trying to get away from the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong. Well, now we fast forward up to our time, and we see the same thing, the same videos, very similar, if you will, of Afghans holding on to the wings and other parts of those C-5A aircraft that were taking off, falling off, and dying. The Taliban is a terrorist organization. You don't negotiate with terrorists. There's no way on earth that they're going to have some sort of easy rule in that country. I haven't seen anything like this since Vietnam. I worked with U.S. Naval Intelligence my entire career. We were always prepared, folks. I want you to think about what I'm going to share with you. We were always prepared as a nation to execute exit strategies from any country on earth where we have embassies. Why? Because there could be unrest and you need to get your civilians out. You need to get rid of any classified information. Well, the first thing you do is you get the civilians out. You get the staff out. You get your American citizens out of the country. That's the first thing you do before you remove your military personnel. My goodness, the troops are there to protect the civilians and to evacuate them. In this case, Joe Biden decided to get rid of the military. He got them out, folks. And then what happened? We had to send the troops back in. And I was always concerned, and I talked about this several times during our broadcast, of getting involved in a war like Vietnam. Look what happened, folks. In Vietnam, it was first advisors. Then it was 100 troops, then 1,000 troops, then 2,000. It ended up being 50,000 or more that were killed. And here we have, again, we had 1,000 troops, went to 3,000, went to 5,000, and now we've got 6,000 troops there. And I understand today there was some fire, and I'm talking about gunfire at the airport. I think 2 or 3 people were killed. U.S. troops apparently did fire on someone. We'll probably get that information a bit later. But my point is this, folks. We're going to be dragged into a quagmire here. We're going to be dragged into a war if the Taliban decide to fire on U.S. troops. I don't want to see American boys and girls, young men and young women go to Afghanistan and come back in body bags. I saw that. Many people during that time saw every single night. We would watch the news, we would watch TV, and right here in a little corner like this, folks, you know what we would see? The body count of American men and women, young men and women in body bags being brought back from Vietnam. I am concerned about this. I know people who lived during that time and saw it for themselves like I did are concerned about this. We don't want to see that happen. We have a president that is unable to lead. It is as simple as that. Now, about an hour from now, this is Monday, Joe Biden is going to go on the air from the White House. He finally came out from hiding. He's going to go on the air. And he better not even think about blaming President Trump for this, because that's what they're trying to do. You know, they could say all they want about President Trump, but he was a tough, courageous leader. None of this would have happened if he was president. Now, of course, you're going to hear the argument, but he's the one that made these deals with the Taliban for us to get out. Yeah, he negotiated agreements with conditions. Remember that word, folks. You're going to be hearing the word conditions. Taliban had to meet conditions before all U.S. troops were withdrawn. Now, here's something you may not know, and I'll wrap it up with this. Look this up. Check it out. It's fact. Joe Biden at the age of 32, was a U.S. Senator. During the Vietnam War, he had urged the Nixon administration to pull out, to get out at all costs. There were a lot of questions being asked. Joe, what do we do with the civilians? Joe, what do we do with the staff? Joe, what do we do with this and with that? It has been reported, and I've checked this out, that he didn't care. Folks, he didn't care. His idea was, we got to get out of Vietnam. We're not there to save the lives of women, children. We're there. We did what we had to do. We have to get out. Don't we see this now? The same Joe Biden who made those comments and made those decisions, or at least urged the White House in the 70s to make those decisions. Don't we see the same decision-making process take place now in our lifetime? He don't care, folks. The women in that country especially are going to be tortured, folks. They're going to be enslaved. Where's the National Organization of Women in the United States? Where's Hillary Clinton? Hey, Hillary, where are you? Why don't you come out and start shouting from the mountaintop about these women? You know, what boils my blood is, folks, we've got all of these people now. Think about this. All of these loudmouths, all of these people criticizing President Trump, criticizing you, criticizing me, criticizing every conservative walking across this country. Every single criticism coming from them. Where are they now? We had years of peace. We had years of prosperity. We were feared. We were feared because a guy in the White House, and this was President Trump, was feared. We were feared because a guy in the White House way back in the 80s, a guy named Ronald Reagan, remember him, folks? We were feared because he was in the White House then. And then Donald Trump, years later in our lifetime, picked up that mantle. Now we're not feared. What's next? Don't you think President Xi is scratching his head from China thinking, wow, what do you get a load of this? They're running away. Get a load of this. His eyes are on Taiwan. His eyes are on the Pacific, the South Pacific. What do you think of Vladimir Putin? Where do you think his eyes are on? So, folks, this is the beginning of a terrible, terrible stage in the history of our country if we don't come to grips with this right away. I mean, I've got to tell you, our national security is in danger. I'm worried about terrorism again. When I worked with military intelligence and in law enforcement, a lot of concern we had about terrorists crossing that Mexican border. Folks, believe me, I don't have proof, but I believe some of them did cross that border. But I also know that the FBI, the CIA, and law enforcement around the country did a great job in preventing a similar attack like we had on 9/11. But we got 9/11 coming up, don't we? And don't you think that some of the, I think it was 10,000 prisoners, Al-Qaeda, ISIS prisoners in Afghanistan that were released by the Taliban yesterday? Don't you think, folks, that some of them may be coming here? I do. The southern border's open. Come on in. Welcome to America. This is the policy of Joe Biden. So, folks, our leaders, I'm talking about the Republican leaders in this country, the Democrat conservatives leaders in this country, have to come together for this country. I don't want to see any more blood spilled by American troops anywhere on the face of the earth, especially there in Afghanistan. I feel bad for those people. I was for withdrawal. I believed in President Trump's plan. It was a good plan, a very slow withdrawal, but a withdrawal with conditions upon the Taliban. Joe Biden threw it all out. He just packed it in and left. One more question. What military leaves their weapons behind? What military leaves their Jeeps, their Humvees, their rifles, ammunition? I mean, I could go on and on. I'll tell you what military, our military, under the leadership of Commander-in-Chief Joe Biden. That is what happened. And finally, folks, I'm going to go to one point that probably will irritate a lot of people, but it needs to be said. This is what happens when you have military leadership more concerned about training the troops in classrooms to be nice, to be politically correct, to read about critical race theory, and on and on and on. Now, I know people will say, oh, come on, why are you bringing that into the picture? I'm bringing it into the picture, folks, because I've said, as many of us who are veterans said a long time ago, that our military are war fighters. They're not to be sitting in a classroom all day learning about how to treat the enemy. You know how you treat the enemy? You destroy the enemy. You annihilate them. You do what George Patton did. You did what Schwarzkopf did in the Iraq War. You use the PAL doctrine, folks. For those of you who don't know what the PAL doctrine is, it was used in Iraq. Absolute destruction of the enemy. Overwhelming force. That's how you put an end to this. But we didn't go down that road, did we? Think about this, folks. Get involved. I'll tell you what, I have said it over and over again. People have asked me, and even the media has asked me, well, how do you fix this? You fix it by getting involved and removing every single Democrat from office. Why do I say Democrat? Because they're the ones that support the policies of the Biden administration. And believe me, if there are any Republicans that supported those policies, I'd say get rid of them too. But anybody who supported the Biden administration policies, they're Democrats, they're Democrat socialists, they're Democrat communists, they got to go. And the way you get rid of them is you got to vote for Republican conservatives at this point. And listen, if you're a Democrat and you got a Democrat conservative there who you could find that will condemn these policies and worked hard against these policies, go to it. But we've got to get people out of office who are not serving the best interest of the American people. So here we are. I lived during the Vietnam War era. I was in the military then. I saw it happen then. I can't believe I'm seeing history repeat itself. But we have a duty and we have an obligation. That's you and I, to make sure that our children and our grandchildren won't see a repeat of this in their time. See you Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. here on this social media platform on Campaign for America. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share a few words with you. I can be reached at campaignforamerica.com. That's campaignforamerica.com. That's our website. All you've got to do, folks, is email me through that website. I answer every email that I get. Thanks a lot, folks. God bless you. And remember, we're not helpless. We're not hopeless. We're America. We're that shining city on a hill. We believe in God, right? We pray. Let's pray for our troops. And one more thing before I forget, and then I'm out of here. Okay, folks? One more thing. The troops, I've been asked about this, who fought in Afghanistan, who died in Afghanistan. They did not die and they did not fight in vain. They're heroes. They courageously fought a war that they were told to go fight because they believed in freedom and liberty. They believed in fighting for freedom and liberty, not only here in America, but around the world. That is our duty. That is our obligation as a country. God gave us a divine gift, freedom and liberty. And we use that gift, folks, to defend freedom and liberty worldwide. Because when we could bring other countries to be as free as America is, then America's national security is strengthened. So remember those troops. They did not die in vain. They did not fight in vain. They're heroes and will always be heroes. God bless you. Continue to keep our nation in prayer. Thank you very much. See you Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. here on Campaign for America.